So as promised, here's a quick video featuring a few things that I've got at Recordland's dollar sale here in Calgary. Opening day I went with my wife, and the following day, Sunday. Each visit between 2 to 3 hours, maybe close to 4 hours on the first visit, sorry. The sale will go until October, maybe November. And the 2 aisles that I showed within my video, there are 6 aisles like that in total in their warehouse area, which is typically closed to the public, except for this sale. And the other 4 aisles is just where they're pulling stock from to replenish the 2 aisles during the dollar sale. So anyways, George Thorogood, it's Canadian pressing on attic, and all this stuff is mint. Like, I look at everything. A lot of people there, you just see them grabbing stuff and putting it in their box. I open up everything. I don't have much space, so I'm not going to bring garbage into my home. So this is all near mint to mint, in many cases unplayed. And this is the pressing on Geffen records. I'll just go through them quickly here. Some have some minor cover wear, but the vinyl is close to perfect as you could hope to find. This even has the poster, this one. Falco. I always like this album. Very cool music. Electronic with some guitar. It's a duo. This I lucked out because I always see copies of this and they're beat up at the dollar sale. This is the original British pressing. The cover is beautiful still, with the exception of this little separation here, but I have a glue stick that I can repair that with. The vinyl's not played, it's unplayed, this one. So original UK press. But for the most part, these are all Canadian pressings with some exceptions. Can never have too many copies of Alan Parsons. I really like this John Anderson solo album. Clem Clempson plays guitar on this. Really cool record. This has got John Lawton on vocals. Classic Jay Giles. This is cool. It's called Together, featuring 4 Canadian bands of the 70s, and this was probably released early 70s. So it's got Lighthouse, Edward Bear, April Wine, and Crowbar. Not to be confused with the metal band Crowbar, but this is the late 60s, early 70s Canadian band. Oh, What a Feeling fame. King's Amazon Beach, Toronto band. They had a couple of albums that I really enjoyed, kind of post-punk, new wave, late 70s, early 80s. Chilliwack, another Canadian band that I enjoy. Redbone, I believe these guys were from Seattle, Washington, or somewhere, Washington State, or Portland, Oregon, somewhere. Very good album. Sean Phillips, I love this record. He's a session musician, but this is one of his better solo albums. Great Joe Walsh album with the embossed front cover. And now this is an original German pressing with the little little insert booklet sort of thing. Again, the vinyl is pristine, and this was just amongst everything else, and you'll pull out worn out copies. Some of them are split, and you just got to spend time picking. I mean, in 3 hours I might have pulled out 30 records. In total here I got maybe 85 albums on the 2 visits. This is pristine, this one. Another Canadian band. I think I have 3 copies. This one's decent. The vinyl's great, so it's a good player. These guys were actually a Rolling Stones tribute band in the late 70s, and then they kind of went off on their own. The Blushing Brides. They sound a lot like mid to late 70s era Stones. Highly recommended if you like that kind of stuff. So yes, some Gino. Very tight band. Another Canadian band from Sarnia, Ontario, Canada, Max Webster. They featured Kim Mitchell on guitar. Great album. Yeah, I know. This is a late 70s reissue of this, and I used to have the original on Decca, but this is unplayed. This is like perfect, so I snagged that. All for $1, people. Another Canadian band, Jackson Hawk. Love this live album, and I snagged it. Best Buy series, but who cares for $1? Bruce Coburn, Phil Manzanera. Lee Oskar is the harmonica player with War. This is one of his early 80s solo albums. Very nice music. Classic Bebop Deluxe. I don't know why I got this. It's cheesy and tacky as hell, but whatever. Some live Guess Who. Another player copy. MC5. This would be a late 70s repress. It's got the censored version, but still for $1, and the cover and everything's perfect. I hate this Sega album. I like their earlier stuff before this, but I got it anyways. Just for $1 because it's in nice shape. Canadian pressing of Argent. All together now. It's got Hold Your Head Up. Charlie Daniels Band. I got a couple copies of this. One is on the orange CBS, which is that one. And this is like a later 70s repress, but excellent Southern rock, really good. Before he went really country. Some more Southern rock. Jimmy Spheris, I have a couple of his albums. I'm not really sure who he is, but his music is great. Always liked him. Some Greg Kihn Band. More Greg Kihn. This was still in the shrink. I opened this up, it's unplayed. It was like sealed in there. Some Joe. This was also sealed, this Yaz. More Chilliwack. Steve Harley of Cockney Rebel, Hobo with a Grin. This is Ian Matthews, Southern Comfort. I'm going to move up a little closer. Now, I used to hate this album too. I saw them on this tour around 1980, and I can remember the concert. We're going to play another song off our new album, and it made me want to puke. But I bought it and listened to it, and it's not as bad as I used to think. This is really cool. There's several bands called The Models. These guys are from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and they played at my college maybe 1980, and I didn't even know they released music, and I flipped it over, and lo and behold, recorded it in Edmonton. So this is the same band. They're kind of like the Tubes, sort of post-punk, but really cool. Some live Pat Travers, another Canadian artist, guitar player. Journey, this is probably the only one with Steve Perry that I can tolerate. Their first one with Steve, and it's mint. This is a Canadian pressing on Buddha Records. On the pink label. And this one's on Uni Records, Uni. Oh, there's my phone. I'll ignore that. Neil Diamond. War of the Worlds. Fox. I'd never heard of these guys, but it's a UK pressing. It's pristine. And I recognize Pete Soley, the keyboard player here. And then I researched this band, and it seems that Kenny Young, he wrote Under the Boardwalk back in the early 60s. And yeah, so that's a really cool band. And actually, the vocalist, I forget her real name, but she goes by Rusha. And dead ringer for Kate Bush. So I'm sure Kate Bush had a copy of this, because this predates anything she released. Exactly like Kate Bush. Very progressive, cool music. Another Canadian artist, Rough Trade, another Canadian band with Carol Pope. Graham Edge Band featuring Adrian Gervitz. Straight Lines, another Vancouver band. Very good, kind of in the line of early Foreigner, but not quite as cheesy and commercial. This is really tight music. Quarter Flash, US band from the late 70s, early 80s. Carlos Santana, John McLaughlin. Frumpy, German band featuring Inga Rumpf. This is, by the way, it's a US pressing on Billingsgate. I was surprised to see that there. It's pristine. This is Sky. They were kind of like a jazz fusion band featuring John Williams, the jazz guitarist. Well, he's jazz, classical, everything. This was sort of his fusion band of the late 70s, 80s, with Herbie Flowers on bass and Francis Monkman from Curved Air. It's a double. Spyro Gyra. Never owned this. Never owned much past 1980 by these guys, so I snagged that. It's an early 80s issue. This is String Band. They featured Ben Mink on violin, who was with the Canadian band FM. FM were progressive rock. This is more sort of folk country, but good nonetheless. Snagged this because it was pristine. Canadian pressing on Janus Records. Got 2 copies of this. Always have player copy on hand. Snagged this, even though it's Best Buy, but it looked beautiful, so I got that. Toronto band, The Drivers. They were produced by Terry Brown, who worked with Rush and everybody. These guys, three-piece band, sort of in the new wave Police vein, like the Police, but not as much reggae, kind of new wave, but really good band. Haircut 100, I don't know why I grabbed that. Tim Weisberg band, he's a flautist, kind of session musician. I think he worked with Zappa at some point, but I've enjoyed all of his solo stuff. Pretty Things, this is actually a UK pressing, and it's really nice shape too. Windham Hill Record Sampler, I got about 6 of these last year from 80, 81, 82. This is the 84, so that fills in the gap. Windham Hill Records is a US label. They featured a lot of ambient, avant-garde kind of experimental artists, and really cool listening. Boomtown Rats. Had to get a pink one. In Canada and the US, I'm not sure about the UK, but they were issued in different colors, like variants. There's the green and gray, the pink and black, etc. This is really cool, and this is never played, mint condition, British pressing, Maori songs. And I played this with my wife and enjoyed that. It's really cool. Never played, and it still had shrink wrap on it. I think it's from the early 70s, maybe late 60s. This. And my wife snagged this from me. It's Zach Perlman, but it's he's classical violinist, but this is jazz. So that's cool. And this is Skywalk. They were from Vancouver, Canada. Jazz fusion, sort of progressive rock. Very cool band, very tight. The recording is amazing. The sound quality of this, you just have to hear it just based on that alone. It's just superb. And they opened for Oscar Peterson, another Canadian, jazz great, on his tours during the late 70s, early 80s in Canada and the US. Cano, they were a French-Canadian band from Ontario, Canada. Progressive, kind of folky sort of stuff. And that's that.